Hello, students, and welcome back to Mr. Sandwich Reads. I, of course, am Mr. Sandwich, and today I'm going to be reading from The King of Mulberry Street by Donna Napoli, and I am reading chapter 15, Money. And when we last left off, Dom and the boys, Tin Pan Alley and Gaetano, had discovered that if they could buy a sandwich and cut it into quarters, they could sell it down by Wall Street for more money. Excuse me, coffee break. So down on Wall Street, they don't know what a sandwich costs. They're busy. It's the hustle and bustle. It's a higher class crowd, and the boys are able to take advantage and make a little bit of money that way. So they kind of discover that if they can get paper for wrapping the sandwiches, Dom got Grandinetti to cut the sandwich for them. So they kind of figured out a little business scheme here. Let's see how this pans out, how this works out for them. Chapter 15, Money, is on page 146. The next 3 sandwiches were harder to sell. People walked by without giving us a look, but then a group of young men dressed in identical suits and ties came up. They took all 3 and gave Tin Pan Alley a handful of coins. Tin Pan Alley counted 9 nickels. "What's a nickel worth?" I asked. 5 cents. "That's only 45 cents. I looked around for the men. They were just going through the door of a building. I ran, spun, and fell. Gaetano had hooked my elbow with such force that I'd been knocked off my feet. "Forget it. You can't go in there." They cheated us. So remember, the boys wanted to charge 50 cents a slice. Here they got 45 for all 4 slices of the sandwich. "And we'll get cheated again." Gaetano put his fists on his hips. "That's how it works." "Look at it this way," said Tin Pan Alley. "We're 45 cents ahead. 45 cents. "For once the mook is right," Gaetano grinned. 45 whole cents. And it wasn't even lunchtime yet. All right. This was okay. Gaetano and I went back to 5 points, me racing ahead straight to Grandinetti's. I put the quarter on the counter under his nose. "That was quick." Grandinetti reached under the counter and took out my shoes. He raised his brows in question. So if you remember, he borrowed a quarter from Grandinetti to get the sandwich, the initial sandwich, and he offered his shoes as collateral. Collateral meaning like, you can hold on to this until I repay you the thing I owe you. So he made good on his word. He paid back that quarter to Grandinetti, gets his shoes back. That was quick, Grandinetti says. I didn't want to explain, not yet. There was still a lot to figure out. It felt like a dream. It was going so fast. If everything went the way I wanted it to, I'd be home in Napoli in no time. So I sat on the floor and brushed off my feet and just smiled up at Grandinetti. Then I put on my shoes and rubbed them shiny with my thumbs. Gaetano waited for me out on the street. He was still grinning. I waved to him through the open door. When I stood, I reached out to shake Grandinetti's hand. He gave a crooked smile and hesitated, but he shook firmly. "Keep your knife ready," I said. "We'll be right back." "I'm not going anywhere." The instant I stepped out the door, Gaetano grabbed me by the sleeve and pulled me down the block. "Look, I've got this all worked out. Give me 5 cents. "No," I said. "Let's keep buying as many long sandwiches as we have money for. The more we sell, the more we make. If you don't give me 5, what are we going to wrap the cut sandwiches in? No one will buy a sandwich that's been sitting in our bare hands. We need paper. Paper costs 5 cents? No, you mook. I got the last 4 pieces for a penny. So that means the business owes me a penny. And with the other 4 pennies, I'll buy 16 more pieces. 16, because we have to look ahead." His words rang in my head. The business. We had a business already. I gave Gaetano a nickel. He headed for Baxter Street. I made a beeline for Pirano's, where he was buying the sandwiches. I made a beeline for Pirano's and bought another sandwich. Grandinetti cut it into 4 pieces. Gaetano and I wrapped the pieces in the new brown paper. But when we got to the 4th sandwich, Gaetano stopped. "Could you cut this one again?" he asked Grandinetti. I knew immediately that he was thinking of our lunch. I almost objected, but hunger held my tongue. Grandinetti nodded in approval. "Halves, huh?" "Thirds," said Gaetano. "Fourths," I said. I wrapped the three parts of sandwich for Gaetano and Tin Pan Alley and me in a single sheet of brown paper and and last and left the last part on the counter. What's this? Asked Grananetti, surprised. Thank you for cutting the sandwiches, I said. You didn't have to do that. When Gaetano and I were out on the street, Gaetano hissed. He's right. You didn't have to do that. He helped us, I said. Yeah, but no one's going to see him eating. No one's going to see him eating. It's no advertisement for us. Advertisement? Gaetano had a head for business. We found Tin Pan Alley back at his corner. I stood there beside him like a statue, holding the three wrapped sandwiches. Tin Pan Alley was the hawker, and when anyone would show a little interest, he'd point at Gaetano, who would take a big bite from one of the smaller pieces of sandwich that were for us, making loud yum noises. It worked. A man bought a sandwich, and for a whole quarter. Then it was Tin Pan Alley's turn. So that's what they wanted to charge, not 50 cents a quarter for each quarter of sandwich. Then it was Tin Pan Alley's turn to eat a small section of sandwich, but neither Gaetano nor I could hawk because we didn't speak English. So that didn't work so well. Still, we sold another sandwich, only one to go. So they're eating it as like an advertisement, just like when you see somebody in a commercial drink the cola, they go, they show you how much they enjoy it. So there you go. They're advertising right there in front of the potential customers. Now it was my turn to eat that little section of sandwich. The sandwiches had meat and cheese mixed together, plus the meat was salami, probably made from pig. I picked out a piece of salami, but then I didn't know where to put it. What are you doing? Said Gaetano. I don't like salami, I said. Eat it anyway. When you mess up the sandwich like that, you make it look bad. A potential customer was watching us. Make a game of it, said Tin Pan Alley. Act like a dog, Gaetano. I'm no dog. No, a dog smarter than you, said Tin Pan Alley. He got on his knees and barked. I fed him the salami, then I took a bite of my piece of sandwich, careful to eat only cheese and lettuce. Remember following that kosher diet. The man bought what was left wrapped sandwich. What was the last wrapped sandwich? The man bought the last wrapped sandwich. Lunchtime was over. It had taken more than an hour to sell 3 sandwiches, but who cared? We had 75 cents to add to the 15 already in my pocket. See you tomorrow, I said to Tin Pan Alley. Gaetano and I headed back toward 5 Points. Wait, called Tin Pan Alley. Where's my share? You got something to eat, said Gaetano. Woof, woof, remember? No fair. The whole time we were selling, I wasn't making music, so no one put money in my cup, and lunch is one of my best times. What did you give up? Nothing. Are you saying my time's worth nothing? Gaetano hands balled into fists. The only thing I saw you do was eat, said Tin Pan Alley. I'm the one who actually sold the sandwiches. Without me, you couldn't say a word. You need me. Gaetano thrust his chin forward. You need me too, you little mook. Hold on, I said. Let's put together what we have till the end of the week. The more long sandwiches we buy, the more small ones we sell. We'll make real money this way. Gaetano put his face in mine. I want my share now. That's what we agreed on. I moved my face even closer to Gaetano's. Lots and lots of money. And we still have 12 pieces of brown paper. We can start the day tomorrow with 3 long sandwiches. I cleared my throat. 1 week, that's all I'm asking. Gaetano looked away. When he looked back, he nodded. 1 week. No, said Tin Pan Alley. If I don't bring in 80 cents today, I'll get a beating. I dropped 10 cents in Tin Pan Alley's cup. I would have made double that. We only earned 90 cents, and we need 75 for the 3 sandwiches tomorrow morning. How about I give you 15? I put another nickel in Tin Pan Alley's cup. Tin Pan Alley just looked at it. Come on, Mook. Gaetano picked salami from his teeth. Money makes money. Beg harder this afternoon. Tin Pan Alley glared at him. Oh, I forgot. You don't beg. Well, play your stupid triangle harder. He whistles too, I said. He whistles good. Come on, said Gaetano. We're partners. I remembered the welts on the boy with the harp in Chatham Square. Did it really matter whether he started the next day with 2 sandwiches instead of 3? If we started the next day with 2 sandwiches instead of 3? Get out of here, Tin Pan Alley spat. He turned his back and played the triangle. Wait, I said. Here's another nickel. Go! Tin Pan Alley was swaying back and forth. He played the triangle so hard. Gaetano dragged me off. Shut up and open your stupid eyes. I looked over my shoulder. A big man in a wide-brimmed hat stood near the lamppost with his arms crossed on his chest. His feet were spread far apart and his stomach pushed forward. His eyes were on Tin Pan Alley. Now he glanced at us. Who do we think this person is? I looked straight ahead and practically ran to keep up with Gaetano. Is that? His padrone, of course. Goosebumps went up my arms and neck. How'd you know? You can always tell a padrone. How? From the stink. We didn't slow down till we got to Chatham Square. Is Tin Pan Alley in trouble? He looked away. We'll find out tomorrow. He didn't do anything bad, I said. Padrone don't need a reason. Forget about it till tomorrow. Tomorrow. Our business. See you in the morning, right? Same deal? Not exactly. Gaetano folded his arms across his chest. For a second, he looked a little like the padrone. We can improve. How? Follow me and learn. So we went to a paper mill. Inside, the clanking of the machines was so loud, I put my finger in my ears. The workers didn't seem to be bothered by it, though. They hollered to one another above the din. Gaetano hollered to the manager. Then the two of us went back out to the sidewalk and sat on the curb. Just a little vocab word I like there. Din, D-I-N, is like a loud noise. You could think of like they used to call at dinner time. They'd make a din, like a loud noise, maybe slapping a pan or the triangle to call people in. They make a loud noise. It's dinner time. Come in. The din is a loud noise. So they hollered to one another above the din. Gaetano hollered to the manager. Then the two of us went back out to the sidewalk and sat on the curb. For 25 cents, we could buy a roll of paper long enough to wrap 1,000 sandwiches at least, yelled Gaetano. Why are you shouting? I yelled back. Gaetano laughed. So did I, and I remembered those girls talking loud that morning as they walked past my alley. They probably worked in a noisy factory. The city must be full of near-deaf factory workers. You're the one who's good with numbers, said Gaetano. But anyone can figure out that buying from the mill is cheaper than paying the ice cream man a penny for 4 sheets. I don't know, I said. What's to know? Be careful. Spend just a little to start. And you're the one who wants to buy a boat ticket. Gaetano looked disgusted. Besides, chi poco spegne, assai spegne. He who spends little winds up spending much more in the end. It had the sound of a proverb, only I hadn't heard before. But Gaetano couldn't win the argument just because he knew proverbs. You really think we're going to have to sell 1,000 sandwiches before I have enough money to get back home? For a ticket and fake documents, you bet. Because we're going to share the money equally, and we have to stay alive in the meantime. But if we spend 25 cents now, I said, that's 4 fewer sandwiches we can sell tomorrow. You're talking like a mook again. Think about it. Think about how many sandwiches we can sell tomorrow. Think how much money we'll make if we sell them all. Come on, Dom. 25 cents for paper. That left enough money for 2 long sandwiches at Pirano's. Each sandwich got cut into 4 pieces. Even if we shared one of them for our own lunch, like we had that day, that left 7 to sell, which meant, wow, $1.75, I shouted. Gaetano shook his head in amazement. That's almost double what a grown man makes a day. Well, really only $1.50 after we put money in Tin Pan Alley's cup. Whoa, he asked for 20 cents, not 25. Yeah, but today we only gave him 15, and we can afford 25, easy. I spoke fast before he could object. How long do you think it'll take us to sell 7 sandwiches? Gaetano grinned. We'll have to start earlier. But hey, what if it rains tonight? Where will we put a roll of brown paper? Gaetano knitted his brows. Where'd you put the pieces of paper we still have left? Gaetano pulled them out of his pocket. They were folded up small. A roll is gigantic, though. Okay, I said, here's the plan. We buy 3,000 at Pirano's tomorrow morning and cut them. We buy 3 sandwiches, at Pirano's tomorrow morning and cut them up. We've already got the paper to wrap them. After we sell those, we can buy the roll of paper and bring it to Grandinetti's. Maybe he'll let us keep it in his store. Give me the money. Gaetano held out his hand. I pulled back. Why? You can't keep it safe overnight in a barrel. I'll put it in a bank then. You said there were banks everywhere. I don't trust these banks, said Gaetano. No one treats kids fair. He put the fingertips of one hand together and shook them in front of my face. They'll report us as lost, and we'd end up in an orphanage. And the banks would keep our money. Don't be such a mook. Give it to me. No. You don't trust me? I asked you a question, said Gaetano. I just looked at him. He'd stolen my documents. So would you trust Gaetano here? They're working together. They're business partners here in this endeavor. But if you remember a few chapters ago, he did take and sell Dom's documents. I asked you a question, said Gaetano. I took the 3/4 from my pocket and handed Gaetano one. We'll split them overnight. Hey, I'm 3 years older. I should keep two and you keep one. The whole thing was my idea, I said. Gaetano pocketed the quarter and walked off. Just like that, I was alone again. And tired. My stomach growled. Lunch had been so small. I had a headache. It was hot. I wanted a midday nap like back home. People were stupid in America. They didn't know enough to get out of the sun. Crowds cluttered in the sidewalks. It was an effort just to weave my way to the alley. When I got there, the reek hit me like a slap. Little piles of trash stewed in the sun-warmed puddles. I put one hand over my nose and mouth and headed for my barrel. It was gone. Clank! I turned around. A big boy with shiny hair had entered the alley and knocked into a stack of debris. Another boy came running up behind him. One look at their faces, and I knew they were after me. I took off in the other direction and fell in rotten vegetables that had turned to slime in the heat. One boy jumped on my back and rolled me over. He sat on my chest, pinned my arms to my sides with his knees, and pressed both hands over my mouth. The other reached into the pocket with the 2/4 as though he knew what was there. Is this all of it? He held a fist in front of my face. The boy on my chest lifted his hand so I could answer. Thief! I screamed. Thief! Thief! I thrashed and twisted. The boy clapped his hands down again and squeezed me with his knees so hard I felt tears come. Watch who you call names, he said. Where'd you get all this money? You picked somebody's pocket. You're the thief. What about the shoes, said the other boy. I felt hands fiddling with my shoestrings. No! I kicked and bucked like a wild thing. With every ounce of strength I had, I ripped my arms free and pummeled the boy on top of me. We were rolling in the garbage filth now, all three of us, kicking and punching and biting. What's going on there? Came a man's voice. The thieves ran off. The man walked toward me. You okay, kid? I got up and swiped at the slime on my pants. Now my hands were slimy too. I'm fine. You sure? You look pretty bad. He spoke Neapolitano. For an instant, I wanted to tell him everything, to beg for help. But then I thought of finding myself in an orphanage. I'm fine. I closed my eyes and pressed the heels of my hands into my eyelids, slime and all. When I opened my eyes, the man was gone. So if we remember back to when he was on the boat, this is kind of how he keeps the tears from coming to the surface. I had no money. I had no barrel to sleep in. Gaetano was right. I was a mook. All that money, gone. And it was Tin Pan Alley's and Gaetano's money as much as it was mine. I hurt. All of me. But my mouth hurt the most. I wiped it. Blood. I ran my tongue around the inside of my mouth. My bottom lip was cut. And look how stupid I was to still be here. The thieves could come back at any moment. So I went the only place I could go. Grandinetti's store. He was busy with customers. A broom stood in the corner. I swept careful to go around people politely, keeping my eyes lowered so no one would take much notice of me. Plums had fallen behind a bushel. I wiped them off and put them neatly back in place. When there was finally a break in the business, Grandinetti leaned against the weighing counter and looked at me. What happened to you? Nothing. Nothing, huh? Nothing that's going to end up as a black eye by morning. And what's that? He came closer. A fat lip, too. When I didn't say anything, he walked over to the fruit bushel. 3 tomatoes or an orange. Your choice. I need a penny. He put his hand up in the halt sign. A few pieces of fruit, that's one thing, but money, I can't afford a paid helper, Dom. I waved my arm across the room. Look how nice your floor is now. You do good work. Just a penny, 1 penny. A penny now? What tomorrow? A nickel? The next day a dime? He put his hands together as though praying and shook them at me, a gesture I already recognized as his favorite. I don't make a big profit here. I have to be careful. I won't ask for a penny tomorrow. I don't know what trouble you're in, Dom, and if you seem like a good kid, but I won't ask for a penny tomorrow. Grandinetti raised both brows. Promise? I hated to promise. What if I still needed a penny tomorrow? But, well, if I did, I'd have to get it someplace else. I promise. Grandinetti gave me a penny. Thank you. I walked to the train depot and checked my shoes in baggage overnight. They'd be safer that night than I would be. How funny. I went to Central Park and pawed through trash. All I found were ends of bread smeared with a nasty yellow paste. They barely eased the ache in my gut, and they did nothing for the ache in my head. I'd had 2 quarters in my pocket, and now I had nothing. In the morning, I'd have to face Tin Pan Alley and Gaetano. I was pretty sure Tin Pan Alley would forgive me, but Gaetano? Even if Gaetano didn't punch me, he'd be disappointed. Both be disappointed in me, sick of me. I was sick of me and my big plans. I'd never get home if I kept doing things wrong. This was too hard. Everything was too hard. Long before dark, I crawled under the thick bushes by the big pond and slept. Okay, so one thing to look for as we follow the plot line and we make predictions about, okay, is the character going to overcome the conflict or lose out to the conflict? You always want to be thinking in a story, is the main character better off or worse off by the end of the story? And you can also look inside of chapters, or if you're watching a movie, you could think about each scene in the movie. Is the character, the main character, at least of that scene, or maybe the main character of the overall story, are they better off or worse off? And in this chapter, we see kind of like a quick rise. Things are going well in the last chapter by the end, and they make some money off the sandwiches, but I would say Dom's worse off at the end of this chapter. He's gone from sleeping in the barrel to now sleeping under a bush. He's been robbed of the 50 cents he had in his pocket. He now owes a penny to Grandinetti, who lent him the penny so that he could basically keep his shoes in a locker overnight. So his shoes are now safer than he is. There's a bit of irony there. That's not what we would expect. Irony being the difference between what we expect and what is. We expect Dom would be safer than his shoes, but his shoes are now actually safer. All right, that was chapter 15. I hope you enjoyed. Keep following along. You can see why I love this so much. I do like the immigration story here, and we got sandwiches mixed in. So what's not to like? Keep following. Subscribe if you haven't, and please share too. All right, take care. Peace.